round two, ladies and gents. Oh, we got that Walking on Sunshine. We're in San Diego, and it's for sure a beautiful day. So let's get this show on the road. Here we go.
Yeah.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business and social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros. Yeah. Let's do it. All right, let's keep walking on some sunshine. James, drop the heat.
Do it. All right, all you business pros out there, before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're listening to us on today. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review. Help other like-minded business owners find value from our awesome guests while we rise up in those podcast rankings. We'll sincerely appreciate every single one of you for it, and if you want to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you on to learn from you as well. Go to www.businessbros.biz, schedule your time, and don't forget to follow us on all our social medias at Business Bros Pod. All right, everybody, we're so excited and honored to bring yet another incredible guest to the Business Bros Pod. Today's guest knows what it takes to launch a successful startup. She's made the journey from being a child-free, carefree, entrepreneurial failure to becoming a booming success with 3 businesses as a new mom. Experience has taught our guest that a good idea just isn't enough to launch a startup. You won't magically figure it out. You have to have a process. That's where our guest can help you out. As restless entrepreneurs and mothers who do it all launch their dream businesses, they try and save a ton of money by doing everything themselves. Inevitably, they wind up making embarrassing mistakes and wasting a ton of money. Our guest wants to be your guide, teaching you how to create the right business processes with the perfect startup journey and help women around the world create, launch, and grow businesses they're passionate about, those that bring more joy and freedom. Joining us today is the mind designer herself. Welcome to the show, Naz!
Woo! There we go. All right, now let's do this. What do you think? 3 minutes into the show, what's your impression so far?
I'm psyched. I'm walking on sunshine. I'm actually thinking about the sunshine because I'm no longer in Southern California, and actually where I'm at now, it's freezing cold winter. So
Aww, where are you at?
Thinking of that sunshine. I'm in Brazil. I'm in south of Brazil.
Oh my gosh! And it's cold over there. You're already freezing. It's like the middle of summer.
It's winter.
Oh man!
Other side of the equator, bro.
Other side of the equator. Everything's backwards over there. Man. Even the toilet spins the other way. All right, let's tell me a little bit about your story. James kind of hinted on the fact that you did what 90% of businesses do. You failed the first time around. Tell me about that story. How'd you get to that point?
Well, by just, entrepreneurs, how we are. We have ideas all day, every day. And so I was kind of in that stage of like, all right, I want to start something. I don't want to work for anybody else. Let's do this. And you just kind of throw yourself into the deep end and see what happens, right? And I mean, for me, it was the best way to learn. I learned that I didn't want a brick and mortar. I didn't want something that kept me tied to one space. I didn't want something that had a large inventory. So I learned so much of what I didn't want. And in that process, learned not only how to launch better, but also really what drove me to be an entrepreneur, right? For me, it wasn't that like, I wanted to see all my products in every store. For me, it was something different. So I was very young, like you guys said, I was child-free, carefree, had all the time in the world. And so just kind of went for it. And every single failure, I sort of like kept a mental note of it. And then when I had my first baby, it was, I don't know, it kind of seems to be my MO. I like to launch businesses when I'm really busy and don't have a lot of time. So I was super pregnant. I was like, let's do this. So let's launch a business while I have my first baby. And actually, while I was doing that, I realized that, all these things were still coming up, like all these fears, right? So there's fear of failure and fear of success even, and fears about money and fear of exposure and all these crazy fears that come up as you're launching. And again, took note of that and really was observant of it and like figured out like, what is it that I'm doing to overcome these things? Because I was still going for it, even though I had all these crazy fears, I was still going for it. And so what ended up happening is as I was launching my other business, I started writing a book about failing and learning and launching. And so I wrote this book called The Perfect Launch Plan. And it really takes you on a journey step by step on how to launch a business. But every single one of those steps, the fears that came up for me, I address those and go, hey, while you're creating your business plan, this fear will probably pop up. Or while you're thinking of your marketing strategy, this fear will probably pop up. And I go ahead and I address it. I take people through, exercises on how to overcome it and let them know that it's okay, it's normal. And really, hopefully, try to get more people who have similar backgrounds that I do understand that it's totally okay, it's totally normal, and it's okay. You can still go for it. You can still launch, even though you're just scared crapless.
And that's all that tends to be always the case. It's funny because, when you talked about having your back against the wall, essentially, where I'm about to have a baby, this is probably not the best time to be starting a business, but you do it anyways. Like that pressure, I think, goes a long way as an entrepreneur. Like when things are going good and when the sales are coming in, you're not really pushed to that creative side of your mind, right? You're kind of like, well, it's already working. Why do I need to change it, right? And then shit hits the fan, right? Then the problems start to come up and you start thinking like, oh my gosh, am I good enough? Am I going to make these mistakes? Can I fix it? And I feel like there's two types of scenarios at that point. There's a scenario where you give in, you're like, nope, this is not for me, and you fail and quit. And the other scenario where you still might fail, but you're learning those lessons and pushing forward. When you talk about writing the book and having those emotions, what are some of those emotions that you felt? Which ones are the ones that really stick in your mind that you had to overcome to keep going?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is really that fear of failure and fear of exposure, right? So I, at the time, was an immigrant to the US, and I moved there when I was a teenager. So if anybody knows that feeling, you have to assimilate, or else, or you get bullied, or you get too much attention drawn on you, or it just feels really awkward. And so coming from that space of like that immigrant mindset and knowing that like, okay, you got to fit in, that fear of exposure of like, okay, well, if I'm going to be the face of this company, if I'm going to be the founder of a company, then I have to be the face. And if I'm going to be the face, then if I fail, it's going to be really out there. People are going to see it. People are going to hear about it. So that was a really strong one for me. And so I had to overcome that fear and just go, what's really more authentic? How can I help more people in the process? And the best way to help people is to really show like what happens when you fail, what can be the learnings, like you were saying, right? It's like you can either learn or you can just take it as your stopping point. And once you get going on that groove of entrepreneurship, you learn to really love those mistakes. You really learn to look at them and go, there we go. There's another golden nugget, something that I will either do differently or something that I will tweak in the future or something that I'll never do again. And I know now how to do it better. So that fear of failure and that fear of exposure was really big, but really a great learning opportunity and really the best way to just kind of jump into the deep end, right? To go, I have to be out there, especially now. Like if you're going to be a CEO, if you're going to be a founder, you don't really have a choice but be on social media, but show what it really is like to run your business in a day-to-day, because people want that authenticity. They want to know, who am I investing my money into? Who am I voting with my wallet here for? So now you just kind of have to accept that that's part of being a founder.
Being the face of the company, that is probably the most awkward thing, right? You want to put CEO on your card, you want to be owner on your business card or on your title, whatever it is, but actually being the face. James and I started this podcast journey 3 years ago, and I can tell you, I didn't like the way my face looked behind the camera. I didn't like the way my voice sounded on the microphone, but we kept at it anyways. Walk me through what it felt like for you the first couple times where you picked up your phone and you made a post, or you actually got behind the microphone and had a conversation on a podcast. What were you feeling, and like, why did you keep doing it?
You totally feel exposed, right? You feel like you're naked. You're just like, yeah, my voice sounds terrible. I look so weird. um, but yeah, so the first time I started, making my posts, I really had to sit down and go like, what do I want to say? Who am I? What kind of leader do I want people to see me as, and who do I want to reach? I think now people understand a little bit better this idea of like really figuring out who your audience is. Like, I don't have to be everything for everybody. I really don't. I'm not gonna be. So if somebody doesn't identify with me and my message, cool. There's probably 1,000 people out there who they will identify with, right? But that first time, it's just really about figuring that out. Like, what's my style? What's my voice? Especially for people who are not used to writing or being vulnerable, right? You got to figure out that space of like, who are my people, who is going to be my tribe, and just kind of start going from the heart. Because I noticed that when I try to sign out a certain way, it doesn't connect, doesn't land with anybody. When I really just sit down and ask myself, like, if I could have a mentor right now and I could have somebody really helping me through this moment, what would I hope that they would say to me, and how would I hope that they would say those things? So those are the things I think about.
You said that you have to kind of get over and understand that not everybody's going to like you. That is a easy thing to say, but a very difficult thing to do, right? I know when we started the podcast, I had friends, already talking smack, like, oh, what are you doing? Are you going to post every day? And, you have people who automatically judge. You put out a piece of content, you get negative comments from time to time. Like, all that stuff happens, but you persevere, you push through anyways. When you say, that you're going to find your own tribe, that the people are going to come and your like-minded individuals are going to kind of surround you, how long did it take for that to start happening, for you to start seeing the benefits of the work that you were putting in to build your own brand?
Well, I have to be honest, it took me a little bit of some time, because I wanted to be this person who was out there talking about leadership and talking about entrepreneurship. And yet because I was a new mom, I was sort of like conflicted about whether or not that identity of mine needed to be at the forefront, or if I wanted it to be at the forefront, because I am naturally a private person, even just in my normal life, I'm just like, I don't have to share everything with everybody. On my private Instagram, that's just my friends, I post maybe like once every 3 months. So even there, I share way less than I share on my business account. So it was kind of like figuring out like, what's my boundary? How much do I want to share? Why is it important for me to share certain things? And it really wasn't until I started like really connecting with the people who I wanted to help. I actually just reached out to random people on Instagram and just started talking to them and said, hey, you look like you're doing something really cool, or you look like you want to do something really cool. Can you talk to me a little bit more about your obstacles? And it was through hearing their obstacles that I realized, you know what? Moms are feeling really lonely, like parents are feeling really lonely, because they might be working full time and taking care of their kids full time, especially last year when everybody had to become like teachers all of a sudden. And to look at people whose lives seem all put together can be really discouraging when you're thinking about starting something. So it wasn't until that moment when I realized that, hey, like people would really benefit from hearing that side of my journey, that things started really connecting. And I still make the choice of not showing my kid's face on social media, but I most certainly talk about what it means to not have a ton of time, to be a parent while also being an entrepreneur, to, be doing mom things while I'm still thinking about work, or the opposite way too, or like to be in the middle of work and going, you know what, guys, hold on a second, I gotta go say hi to my kid, right? And what that mesh and that blend looks like for me, how it makes sense for me in my life, how I navigate that journey. So it took me a while, but that exploration was super worth it.
And it's powerful that you say that, how you can separate the two, because when I tell people about creating content and putting things out there, really what I'm telling them to do is to build a resume, to create an image of themselves, right? What you post on social media isn't who you are 100%. It's a part of who you are, and you get to choose what part you want to put out, right? And so what I tell people is like, look, every morning you see that I went on my run. I give a little, what I was thinking during my run. I'll do a little Instagram story, and that's really about it. And then you see podcast stuff. So I have created that image of myself. And so when I interact with people, those are the two things they ask me about. Hey man, you're running quite a bit, or how's the podcast going? That is the image I created for myself. And I have my kids every once in a while come on post with me and they do some stuff with me, but it's not very often. That is not the image that I'm portraying. It doesn't mean that I'm not a father. It doesn't mean that I'm not a husband. It doesn't mean that I'm not a teacher and do all these other things. It's just the image that we're choosing to put out there. So when you started to decide finally to create your image and who you wanted to be, how did you narrow in on this identity that you wanted?
Well, just to go back to one of your points, I think it's really important for people to understand that it's totally okay to create boundaries. Like, it's fine, in life, in business, and social media. Like, you have to figure out where you're okay with going and where you're not. And so that was part of that journey for me. In the very, very beginning, I didn't even know if I wanted to even show my face. And my idea was to sort of prop up other women and prop up other entrepreneurs who were doing things that I thought were really impressive. But again, it was just like writing and connecting and reaching out to people and going like, what do people really want to hear that I can provide? And so I just talked. I talked to people. I asked them. I created communities online, because that's kind of the beauty of this global community that we have online, right? Is that you can actually just reach out and start a conversation with somebody who you admire or who's doing something that you think is really cool. So that's exactly what I did. I reached out to these women who are already doing something that I thought was really cool on Instagram and messaged them and said, hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Who are you connecting with? Can we chat? I would just get on calls with them and partner to do different workshops and do different things. And through them, I really was able to figure out, okay, I really like this piece of what this person is saying. I really like this bit of what this person's doing. I like how this person is showing up here, and started to build my own interpretation of those little nuggets and created my own persona.
Isn't it fascinating? Like when you shifted, right? Like, yes, you were focused on building yourself, but the way you did that is by asking other people, by reaching out to other people. When we started doing the podcast and interviewing people, I felt like I found the cheat code to life. Like all of a sudden I became a better entrepreneur because I talked to better entrepreneurs. I became a better speaker because I listened to better speakers. I became more motivational because I listened to people who are motivated. Like I went and literally reached out to people. I'm like, you're awesome. Let's talk. Like that is the beauty of humanity. I can't emphasize that enough. Like you should be going out and having conversations with people, especially with people who are smarter than you, who are doing things that you want to do, and even people who disagree with you, because there's so much that you can learn from each other. Tell me about, a little more on the emotional level, like as you're picking these things out, who are you becoming as you're talking to these people?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I'm obviously biased because I believe in coaching. I invest in coaching. I think everybody should have a coach. So yes, I'm all about learning and learning and having mentors in your life, and starting that conversation. But I totally forgot the question. Pregnancy brain.
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool. Who are you becoming? Like emotionally, who are you becoming?
Yes, so I am becoming just somebody who's more comfortable with not knowing everything. Somebody who's really open to trying things differently and not reinventing the wheel, right? Because I think a lot of people that I helped in the beginning had this idea of like, well, because I'm afraid of exposing myself or I'm afraid of failure, I sort of just have to do it alone in a bubble, because if anything goes wrong, nobody's going to know, right? I'm going to be the only one who knows that I failed. And you just sort of have to really find ways to slowly chip away at those walls, because not only are your failures going to be learning lessons for other people and for you as well, but again, it helps you really start to mold your leadership identity, right? You start to really figure out who am I as a leader when I'm showing up? And going back to the point of conversations and asking people and learning from people who know more than you. I mean, that's something that I talk about with the founders that I work with every day, which is like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. When you're creating a product, when you're about to launch a business, the best thing you can do is not do anything until you talk to the people who you want to serve. Don't build that perfect product in a little corner by yourself or in your garage by yourself, right? Don't spend a ton of money creating that perfect website. Don't think that there is such a thing as perfect to begin with, because you have to go out there and talk to your people first. Ask them, have them build your product for you, right? You want to ask them, like, what do you want to see? What are the features that you want? What colors do you want to see? Like, why would this be important for you? What problem would this solve? How much would you want to pay for it? And that's how you build that perfect product. It's not going to be you locked in your basement by yourself creating something.
It's market research. Oh my gosh, you're going to sell something to people. Might as well ask the people who are going to buy if they would even buy. Help them create.
It's incredible how many people don't do it.
Yes. And I love how you're describing that, because ultimately what you're doing is you're getting pieces of information. And as you put those pieces of information together, you're going to get to a point where when you're describing it to somebody, they're like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Where do I get one of those? When you get that answer, you've built it correctly, right? Until you get that answer, you don't have all the pieces in place. You don't have a viable product. You might have people here and there that might buy it, but it's not a necessity. You have to go out and ask those people. So speaking of building something, tell me a little bit about the Mind Designer. Where'd you get that idea? And what is it? What are we talking about here?
Well, yeah, after launching a couple times and trying things differently and starting on my coaching path, I realized that, I mean, I don't know the percentage, but I would say like 85% of a business is all right here, right? It's in your head and your attitudes around the journey that you're going to take as an entrepreneur. And I just, everywhere I turned, every conversation that I started with a woman who wanted to launch a business inevitably turned into the limiting beliefs that they had around their idea, the fears that they had around their ability to do something or not, and the trepidations that they were experiencing. So it really was just like, oh man, it's all in the mind. It's all in the mind, right? So I want to find ways to help people sort of like break down all the stuff that's keeping them stuck so that we can rebuild a leader, we can rebuild a CEO, but really do it in the way that works for them, right? I'm never going to be that person who's going to say, come into my program and you're going to launch in 60 days. That's not my jam. Like, if you want to do that, there's a billion people that can do that for you. My jam is to, hey, come over here. Let's talk. Let's figure out like what's really getting in the way, but also like, what do you want? What's the lifestyle that you want? Some people want the lifestyle where they're just like, you know what? I want to create something massive that's going to be sellable, and I'm going to work 50 hours a week on it so that I can just build it really big, really fast, and sell it for a lot and get out and do something else. Other people are like, I just want to have like 19 babies and work half an hour a day and maybe I'll launch in 2 years. And that's perfectly fine as well. So you want to be able to determine like, what is the ideal lifestyle for you? Because I don't want anybody that comes to me to look at themselves and go, okay, in a year, I will have this lifestyle. I want them to know that from day one, that's what you're planning around. You're not planning towards, you're planning around the lifestyle that you want right now. So we really break that down. We break down the limiting beliefs and we break down what they want, and we start to build things from where they want to go.
It's funny that that question, it sounds so simple. What do you want? Right? That sounds so simple, but when you sit down to try to actually figure it out, it's not the easiest question in the world. There's a lot of introspective, a lot of deep digging, because the what do you want starts off super vague, right? It's like, what do you want? I want to be rich and famous. Okay, that's a good start. Like, what does that actually look like? What's your lifestyle like? James has spent, James, the other business bro, he spent so much time on his vivid vision. I mean, he can tell you to the T every single decade what his lifestyle is going to be like up until he dies at 102, right? And he knows the exact what's going to happen the last 2 years. But it's hours and hours and journaling and writing down and experiencing and modifying and changing and talking it out with therapists and like everything to really narrow down what it is that you want. And I think entrepreneurs don't really understand that when you get into this space, it's going to cost more than you think it's going to cost. It's going to take longer than you think it's going to take. It's going to take more work than you thought ever. You didn't even know you were going to do that much work, but it's going to do all those things. And then you're going to reach some level that you're at. And it's mostly not even work. Like, I'm not talking swinging a hammer. I'm talking mental work, right?
Oh, yeah.
Has that been your experience so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that point of like, what do you want? I mean, that's something that we go over a lot. And not only do you want to ask people, what do you want? But it's more like, why? Right? Because sometimes we get these ideas and we don't even know where we got them. So it's like, oh, I want to make 10K a month. Why? Why that number? What are you going to do with it? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So we got to get really granular and go. I ask questions like, ideally, what time would you wake up in the morning? When you wake up, what would you do? And then what kind of breakfast would you have? And then when you envision your team, how many people are sitting in front of you? Or where's your office? What does it look like? And then we just go down that level of detail and really figure out what that lifestyle looks like. And then we can sort of start fitting in like, okay, cool. So that means you probably would want to start a business that is more of a social startup or more of a lifestyle brand or more of a scalable startup, and we can start molding really the kind of business that would fit that person's ideal lifestyle rather than just come from some vague place with these ideas that were thrown at you by society, your parents, whoever, So you want to really start digging and exploring your whys.
Yeah, developing a business to fit your lifestyle. That's completely different because oftentimes we just think, oh, you know what? I'm really good at folding laundry. So I should probably start a dry cleaning business because I can fold laundry really well. Not realizing that that's probably not what you want to do. You don't want to actually have a retail location. You don't actually want to fold laundry all day long. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean that that's the thing you have to develop a business around. Your idea here is, what do you want to be like? What's the ideal lifestyle? And then we can create something around that. Even getting people to understand that it's still a long process, right? Like you can't, when somebody comes to you for business coaching, they don't realize that you got to become someone first. Who do you want to become before we start your business? That sound about right?
Yeah, absolutely. We do all that exploration. And especially when I'm helping a parent or somebody who already has a busy schedule, somebody maybe they already have a full-time job, maybe they already have to, be a caretaker for kids or parents or whoever else. And they just have this idea and they just like, okay, well, that means I have to do all this work all the time and then do all of these other things. And it's like, just like whose timeline is it anyways, right? So it doesn't have to be someone else's timeline. Work on your own time. Let's figure out what that timeline could look like in the lifestyle that you have now, plus the lifestyle that you want. And we can sort of go from there.
One life to live, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Nas, if people want to get a hold of you, they want to work with you, they need to design their mind right so they can get moving in the direction that they want to go in. How can they get a hold of you?
Sure. I'm everywhere at The Mind Designer or just theminddesigner.com. And you can reach me from there.
Sweet.
Or you can find my book as well. The book is pretty much, it's on the website, but it's on the big retailer that everybody knows as well. And it's called The Perfect Launch Plan. And, but again, it's also on theminddesigner.com.
Perfect. All right, we are big on testimonials. That's kind of the thing that we do. We use them to help businesses grow. And you know the power of a testimonial. It's the way that your clients you can get new clients to trust you because old clients are shouting your praise. So I got to ask you, what was your experience like on the Business Bros podcast?
Oh, this has been so fun. I love the idea of talking to business bros coming from the place where I work with so many women and moms, but I would love to extend the invitation to all the bros. Like, this is not just for moms. If you want to design that mindset that's going to get you to launch, come over to my side. I'm always looking for more bros.
There we go.
But it's been great. It's been really fun.
All right. And then last question, who should be listening to the program? So in your opinion, after being on the episode, I don't know if you checked out any of the other ones, who should be listening to the show?
Oh, man. Well, I come from the DEI space, so I would love to say people of color, come to listen to the show, come see the possibilities of what other people of color can do.
Nice. James, you love that comment, I'm sure. All right.
Laughing on the inside. I love it.
That's what I'm saying. All right, sweet. All right, Nas, well, thank you very much for coming on the program. Really enjoyed talking to you. And ladies and gentlemen, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. If your mind isn't in the space, you're never going to continue going forward. The entrepreneurial business is not the easiest thing to do. You really got to callous your mind. You really got to know where you're going and why you want to get there if you're ever going to succeed. Because more often than not, when you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like doing what you have to do. You don't have any motivation to keep going, but your why and your goals, the lifestyle that you decide to live your life around, those things will keep you going when you don't want to. So make sure you guys check out theminddesigner.com. Go pick up the book, the perfect launch plan, and just check it out. Get yourself the opportunity to change your mind shift just a little bit so that you can put yourself in a position to succeed. All right. And then lastly, of course, I can't end the show without giving you the testimonial pitch. Look, ladies and gentlemen, you're already doing a great job for your clients. That's just how you operate, right? You got customers, you do a good job. They're absolutely happy. They go home and they tell their friends and family, but they only do that for about 5 minutes and then they forget all about you. So what we want you to do is to make sure that you capture their excitement on video, which is what we do here on the Business Bros podcast. We capture great video testimonials and then you take those and you put them to work for you. They become your Facebook ads, they become your email campaigns, they become your social media posts, and it's your clients talking about you, excited, happy, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's how you start to begin to grow your business so you can give yourself an opportunity to scale. Put more offers out there and let your customers be your sales force. Go to businessbros.biz to check out if you want to be a guest on the show. If you want to get your video testimonials, our menu's right there of the services that we offer, businessbros.biz. Nas, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for taking the time and congratulations on the new baby to come.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Again tomorrow. Peace. And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation. Or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.